Hello, in this talk I'll be presenting a brief overview of our research exploring what makes an online community actually feel like a community. First, I'd like to recognize my collaborators, Melissa Mercado and Stephen Sumner from the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control at the CDC. Also, while I'm now at Reddit, I'd like to highlight that this work was completed while I was employed at Twitch. For those unfamiliar with Twitch, the service allows anyone to broadcast content live on the internet while providing tools for social interaction and community building. Here, we see a channel page with the livestream front and center. On the right, viewers participate in chat or using other social features such as predictions or polls. Many people who are new to Twitch associate it with fast-paced, meme-filled chat. However, many channels also support rich social and community interaction. This exchange shown here illustrates two things. First, we see one viewer gifting a subscription to another, highlighting how live streaming communities can provide venues for supporting others. Second, we note the use of symbols, in this case a badge next to a username, to highlight membership or status within the community. These are elements of what McMillan and Chavez have referred to as psychological sense of community. More broadly, the authors define sense of community as a feeling that members have of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another and to the group, and a shared faith that members' needs will be met through their commitment to be together. Many prior studies have explored how sense of community manifests in a variety of online communities as sense of virtual community, or SOVC. In addition to McMillan and Chavez's original dimensions of sense of community, these studies have identified several additional dimensions associated with online community attachment. This prompted our research question: what does SOVC look like in large-scale, real-time, online contexts, such as live streaming communities? Here's what we found. First, in the context of Twitch channels, we found that SOVC has two dimensions. The first, belonging, represents a feeling of personal integration and social support. This matches notions of belonging and membership identified in prior research on online and offline communities. The second, which we call cohesion, represents a feeling that a community is well run, with effective leadership and shared values. This dimension combines elements of previously identified constructs, such as shared values and mutual cooperation, into something new. Second, we find that SOVC scores, as collected through a survey, can be inferred with high accuracy using data available from public on-platform activity. Individual level features such as tenure within the channel and type of participation can drive inferences of viewer level differences in SOVC. Community level features such as audience size and the adoption of emotes can help to identify channel level differences in the typical SOVC that members might feel. With that, let's dive into some of the details. We'll start by exploring how we measured SOVC and identified the two dimensions of belonging and cohesion. Drawing on 6 prior studies of SOVC, we collected a set of 37 items phrased as statements capturing different aspects of community involvement across a variety of types of online communities. These measures were included into a questionnaire that was distributed by email in April 2020 and completed by 1,944 Twitch users located in the United States. Our sampling strategy was designed to elicit multiple responses per channel for a wide range of channels capturing different genres and audience sizes. In the survey, we asked participants to name the Twitch channel in which they had spent the most time over the preceding month, and then note their level of agreement with each of the 37 items with respect to that channel. Using factor analysis, we grouped together items which tended to elicit similar answers. This allowed us to identify our two dimensions of SOVC in live streaming communities. The first dimension, belonging, captured the extent to which the viewer felt like a part of the community. Respondents who scored their selected community high on this scale tended to agree with statements like, "Most members of this community know me," and "Fitting into this community is important to me." The second dimension, which we labeled cohesion, describes the extent to which the community was effective as a group and had clear norms for behavior. Respondents assigning high scores on this dimension agreed with statements such as, "People in this community generally behave appropriately," or "I'm hopeful for the future of this community." Averaging responses to items in each dimension gives a numerical score ranging from 1, low, to 5, high. This graph shows distributions for these two scales, with belonging in blue and cohesion in pink. Though some participants gave low belonging scores to their frequently visited channels, they almost always rated them high with respect to cohesion. In other words, viewers may be more open to participating in a channel where they don't feel personally integrated than one that's poorly run. Thus, for each survey respondent, we had 2 scores capturing SOVC. In the second part of the study, we built a model to infer these scores based on on-platform behavior. We designed that model around the Social-Ecological framework, which has been used in prior work to explore how health-related behaviors are shaped by an individual's surrounding social context. This model groups surrounding context into 4 levels: the individual, close relationships, the broader community, and then finally societal factors. In our case, the societal level maps to Twitch or even internet level factors which shape community feelings. As we were unable to capture differences in these societal level features, we omitted this level from our model. Individual level features included the viewer's tenure in the community and types of participation, including both individually identifiable participation in chat and anonymous collective participation through polls or channel points. Relationship features included exchanges of mentions with other members in chat, as well as connections to the streamer, including financial support through subscriptions or cheering. Finally, community-level features included the size of the channel, overall chat participation rates, and rates of global and subscriber emote usage. We walk through a couple of the specific findings in the following slides. This chart plots belonging scores across channel tenure shown on a log scale. Respondents are grouped based on type of participation in the channel. Red captures respondents who did not chat in their selected channel. Green captures those who only chatted, and blue, those who chatted and engaged in collective forms of participation such as polls. Both channel tenure and participation style are strong predictors of the level of belonging that the individual user feels within the channel. At the community level, we found that sense of cohesion increased when more viewers used sub-emotes, which are channel-specific symbols available only to subscribers. However, cohesion decreased when more viewers used global emotes, emotes available to all viewers across the service. This could indicate trade-offs in the role that symbols play between driving attachment to the specific community within a channel versus to the broader community across the service as a whole. I'd like to conclude with some takeaways that I hope many of you can leverage in your own work. We found that SOVC and live streaming communities follow 2 dimensions: belonging and a novel construct capturing collective efficacy and norms that we call cohesion. Cohesion, but not belonging, may be a prerequisite for engagement. In the paper, we found that belonging, but not cohesion, strongly predicts long-term retention as far out as 1 year after survey responses were collected. We inferred SOVC scores from on-platform activity, finding that individual and community-level features help to drive predictions. As a caveat, our modeling approach precluded the inclusion of smaller channels, where relationship factors are likely to play a larger role. Based on these findings, we offer 3 questions that we hope might engage you all in your future work. First, we found that anonymous forms of activity, such as participation in polls, can augment feelings of community attachment. What other forms of anonymous participation can we design to foster a sense of community in online social spaces? Second, we found that the social-ecological framework was an effective and systematic scaffold for building models of online social behavior. How can we leverage this approach in other CSCW contexts to understand social behavior online? Finally, the ability to compute community attachment scores based on on-platform activity means that these scores can be used in systems such as recommendations that could drive users toward spaces where they experience beneficial social outcomes. How can we encourage online services more broadly to develop and incorporate signals like these into their algorithmic systems? With that, I want to conclude by saying thank you. Thanks to our community of collaborators at Twitch, to the CSCW reviewers who improved this work over multiple stages, and to you, the audience, for your time and interest in shaping friendlier and more welcoming online communities.